All right. Angelica. Angelica, where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I was born in Brooklyn, but I grew up all over Long Island, New York. Long Island.
Tell me about your childhood.
Yeah, wow, that was quite the tale. It's so weird talking about it now that I've like kind of made peace with it, but still, yeah. Whew. So I was born to this woman, my mother. She, looking back now, like I'm not a professional, but in my opinion, narcissistic traits, like, wow. So when I was really little, I do believe she loved me. But as I grew, and, like when children, they start developing, personalities. And I've been told by other family members later on in life how I guess I started taking on like personality traits of my father, which was never in the picture. I never met the man. So I think that kind of set her off to start like just feeling a certain way about me negatively. And then, oh my goodness, school. So it turned out I had learning disabilities. That made her like really nasty towards me. And then I remember one time, a teacher had contacted her telling her like I wasn't doing my homework, which I wasn't because I didn't even know how to do it. And so my mother sat down with me, like, all right, we have to do your homework now. And she was all mad and pissy about it. And so I had these math problems. So I'm doing all the math problems, and there was this one problem I just couldn't figure it out. It was like division or something. And after the fifth time, she just backhands me in the face. My nose explodes with blood. And I'm just like, she's like, now you're just fucking doing it on purpose and blah, blah. I was like, and then she's like, I'll just fucking do it myself. And then so she did the one math problem for me. And that's the kind of just constant, just anger directed at me. And then when I made a best friend, my best friend was Black. Now in this town, Ronkonkoma, that I lived most of my childhood with my mother, predominantly Caucasian. So because my father was some type of Latino, which I don't know till this day, but and then so I wasn't quite white enough for the white kids, and then my friend who was Black, they didn't like her either. So we bonded over that, like, all right, if no one's gonna like us, fuck it, we'll be besties. So that was that. And then when my mother found out, it was just so brutal. My mother was very racist and would start calling me a nigger. Go hang out with your fucking nigger family and blah, blah, blah. Like, she was not the best lady. Very mentally, emotionally, and physically abusive towards me until the age of 12, 13. I was removed from my house by Child Protective Services because neighbors would like just see me running from the house bloody all the time. So there were like a few visits from Child Protective Services, and then like the fourth or fifth visit, they just finally removed me from the home. And then out of the frying pan into the fire. And then being in foster homes and group homes, like there was one time like waking up in the middle of the night and there's like a foster brother, like another guy in there, in bed with me, like molesting me, like, ugh. So then there was like that whole part of my childhood that was pretty brutal. And then there's just so many things like then throughout high school. Just, men that I guess could read and prey upon the fact that I was just so messed up, a messed up child.
Soft White Underbelly is about giving people a space to tell their stories, even when these stories challenge what we think we know. Ground News shows us different perspectives in the media, which is why Ground News is a perfect sponsor for my channel. In a world where algorithms censor much of the information we receive, some of the most important stories get missed from our news feeds. Ground News highlights local news from around the world, giving you an on-the-ground perspective that national coverage might miss. The app and website empowers you to form your own opinions by presenting you with every article published on any news story worldwide. My favorite part of the app is the data it gives you on each news source as you read it, such as where it leans on the political spectrum, a factuality rating indicating how subjective their printed reporting tends to be, and who funds it. I particularly like their blind spot feed, dedicated to showing you news stories that are underrepresented in the mainstream media. You can check this all out by scanning the QR code on screen or clicking the link below. It's easy to forget how much bias can shape the reality we live in. And in a world where our attention is constantly being fought over, my Vantage Plan easily helps me keep up with more important stories slipping through the cracks. So I encourage you to check them out at ground.news/SWU. Subscribe through my link or download the mobile app and enter promo code SWU to save 40% off their Vantage Plan. And by subscribing or even gifting it to someone you know, you're helping hold the media accountable and helping my channel directly. Thank you for watching.
That, come on to you like a wolf in sheep's clothing, and then, getting me into other just adult situations that like 14, 15, 16-year-old girls should be involved in. So yeah, that was hard. I did graduate high school with a high school diploma. That's as far as my education goes. I did try college a few times, but would drop out looking around like, these are the people that I'm going to share a workforce with. I'm like, fuck that. And I would leave. But when I graduated high school, a friend of mine, and I graduated from Stony Brook, Ward Melville High School in Stony Brook. And my friend Julie, her mother let me live at their house while I finished my final year, because I had gotten emancipated from being a ward of the courts of New York. So that was nice. And I was supposed to go to college then, right after, but then I had a full ride because I was a ward of the New York State court system. The college contacts me like, okay, we can't take you in this year, but we'll take you in the following year. So I'm like, cool. I'll go hang out in New York City and live there for a year. I never went to college after that. I mean, later on in life, but I didn't go to that college. And yeah, that's where I found heroin. And I self-medicated for a good 10, 13 years. Like I would get clean for a little bit, but then I'd just fall right back into it. And it was funny, the other night when I was driving around with my friend Jonathan, I'm like, oh, I've been here, because all the street names. Back in 1989, when I was like 18, 19 years old, I came out to Los Angeles. I wanted to live here, and I was coming to see a friend, and she lived in a apartment condo thing over on La Cienega and Fountain area. Because when I was over there the other night, I'm like, whoa, these street names, nothing looks familiar, but the street names all were very familiar. And I'm like, oh, I became a really bad meth head for a few months living with this friend of mine. And then so I was like, all right, I can't live like this. And I did go back to New York. And then, yeah, I was like living in squats out there. I stayed at C Squats, Glass House Squat. And then there was this one squat was I kind of had a permanent area called Swamp Squat. This building was like, I guess it was a practice building for law enforcement and the fire department, unbeknownst to us. But so it was called Swamp Squat because on the like sub-level, it was like, I guess like knee deep in like some kind of swampy water, and we'd have like crates stacked on each other, making like a pathway so that then you could get to the upper levels where it was nicer. And I remember my room was like way up towards the roof, and then there was this like little tiny like metal ladder to get up there. And so I'm hanging out on the roof. Oh, we were all smoking angel dust on the roof. And then all of a sudden, the place gets surrounded by all of these like police cars and stuff. And we're like, what the fuck is going on? So now we're fucked up. You're like Marshmallow Man when you're high on angel dust. And so I'm like, we got to get out of here, because then we could see the police exiting the vehicles and like coming up to the building. I guess they're like clearing out. They would do that to squats, like clear them out and stuff. So I'm like fucked up, and I'm like so scared going down this like rickety tiny metal ladder. And then we finally get to the bottom, and then we like went down this other ladder down the side of the building. We didn't want to go back inside. And so we went through a hole in the fence, and then we're just sitting out there watching the police just swarm this place and like getting everybody to come out. And then we realized later on in the day, like, wow, I hope they got the people that were living really far down, because there were like tunnels. If you went like across those like the milk crate pathway out of the swamp part, there were like tunnels, and then people had rooms and stuff throughout there. And I don't know if hopefully, I mean, eventually I'm sure they all got out. But yeah, and then a week later we went looking by, and they had everything boarded up, and it was like, oh, there was our home. And but then yeah, just going around living on the streets as a kid.
Do you feel like that lifestyle that you had taken on at that age was a product of like the sexual abuse and the treatment from your mom?
Oh, of course, yes. Because, you know, like I went right into drugs. That was like the thing. It like self-medicated. Like it took all the pain, all the hurt, all the terrible way I felt about myself, because I felt like I was garbage, because that's what my mother drilled into me. I was nothing. I was ugly. I was stupid, you know. And then between the mental, physical, emotional abuse from that woman, I was a hot mess.
Were there addicts in your family?
I'm not sure. I had an Aunt Linda, not my blood relative. She was married to one of my mother's brothers. And I know she was like, she did drugs, and she would drink a lot, because like we'd see them like holidays, you know, Christmas, Thanksgiving and stuff. And I just remember her always just being like off in a corner, just like nodding out. And she was my favorite relative too. I loved her, but she ended up, I heard, passing away of a heroin overdose. So yeah. And then that was like one of the things, like when I was on drugs for so long, I mean, for me, like 10, 12 years is a long time. And like I would get clean, you know, go into rehab over at any given hospital in Manhattan that was taking in new patients. Sometimes like long waiting lists and stuff. And I'd go in and I'd get sober for a while, but I wasn't healing myself then. I was just going to rehab to get off of the heroin. But then if you don't fix like what's going on in your head and your heart and your spirit and your soul, yeah, you're just going to keep going back. And I remember the last stint in rehab I did, there was this older woman who was like, "You're so beautiful. You still have a chance. Don't turn out like me. Heal yourself." And that kind of stayed with me. And then But it wasn't the trick, because then I was living with this chick who was originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and she was living we were living on St. Mark's between First and A. Oh my God, that apartment, it was like a nice big, like, 1-bedroom apartment. And it was like $300 a month. Now that apartment's probably like $3,000 a month. But so I ended up getting back into heroin again. She was doing both heroin and meth. And yeah, I didn't like the meth. The meth, that I was cured of that here in LA when I was 18. But then she had friends from Minneapolis come, and they were staying with us. Tim and, his friend. Oof, I'll tell you, I'll get to that part about the friend. But so Tim and his friend, they're staying with us. And they were like, wow, you guys are really bad off. You're welcome to come back to Minneapolis with us. And, you could get clean there. So we're all gung-ho, like, yay, we're going to Minneapolis. We're going to get clean this time. It'll be great. And so the day comes, like a few days later, the day comes where we're going to drive out in their truck and van back to Minneapolis. And then the girl that I was living with was like, no, we're not going to Minneapolis. And I'm like, no, but I still want to go. So Tim was like, if she wants to go, we already promised the both of you that we would take you back to help you get your shit together. But if she wants to come, we're going to take her. And then she got pissed and she's screaming. My stuff that I wanted to keep was already in the truck. She was like going to run down to the truck to like get my stuff out of it, but they beat her to it. So they took the truck and they backed it against like a brick wall parking, so she couldn't get in the back to take my stuff out. So then we ended up sleeping in the truck that night, not because, she was losing her shit. Because, misery loves company. You can't take her little misery buddy away from her. But I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I kept thinking about the lady the year prior, like, get out when you can. And I did. So then that's when I started living in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And that was hard. After I was sober for a full year, I was still so intensely depressed, and I thought that would never go away. And so I almost succeeded at killing myself. I took like 5 boxes of like over-the-counter sleeping pills. And my roommate found me. I was living at Tim's house, but not that roommate. There was this other lady who lived there. She found me and got me to the hospital. And that was crazy. And I was thinking about this the other day with Jonathan, like, wow, the amount of overdoses I survived, the amount of suicides I survived, and I'm still here. There's got to be something that I'm supposed to accomplish in this life to make it this far. So maybe this is it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But it took so long to get past that. And then through like just doing it, like learning the psychology of like addiction and depression. And it's like, when you're abused like that as a child, that like fucks up the pattern of thinking of your brain. And then, of course, the self-medication of the years of drugs, then that fucks up not only the wiring of your brain, but you're killing everything, including the pleasure, to kill the pain. And I look at it like addiction is taking a loan out on happiness with like 100% interest rate. So you're borrowing this happiness And as you're doing so, your serotonin and all like your natural happy chemicals, they're like, oh, we don't need to work anymore. We don't need to function.
And they'll turn off for
so
a year or
let's
two.
turn this off. You're getting too much elsewhere. So then once you stop doing the drugs, it takes a minute for, all that to come back.
Not a minute.
Yeah.
Minute sounds like it's
no,
okay.
No, I know. That's like our slang. But yeah, it takes a long time.
How long was it before you got those kind of feelings back?
Oh, wow. I want to, for me, I mean, everybody's different. I have years. It took years to just be comfortable in my skin, not like even happy.
See, that's the problem.
Just
with these drugs.
to like the constant like, oh, and yeah, and also having to like then deal with all of the emotions that you were suppressing through addiction. It was rough. I mean, I had 3 suicide attempts that I luckily survived. I'm happy to be here, grateful, my gratitude, because then I went off to like accomplish some other great things. But it's brutal. And to even tell people like, it gets better is so like just, because I mean, I was told that and you just don't believe it. Yeah, I wouldn't even know what to tell someone. Just keep pushing through the brutalness of it all. Eventually, like it does.
That's why so many people relapse.
Yeah, and it's hard. It is so fucking hard.
It's not just quitting the drug. It's quitting the drug and then writing out that year or 3 with no happiness.
It's hard. It's so hard because, you think the worst is like over when you get through like the shakes and the vomiting and the thing. But yeah, then there's the whole mental and emotional trauma of it all. And like you stop growing emotionally and mentally and spiritually the second you pick up the drug. So you have to like pick up where you left off, plus the baggage of everything you also like shoved deep down. It's quite the journey. And if you can make it, like, fuck yeah. It's hard.
You made it out though.
I did.
How'd you do that?
I did, for the grace of God. And like, luckily having people that cared about me. Like when I was living in Minneapolis, when I was working through getting right with everything, that one suicide attempt that I was talking about before, I was working at Schindler's Bookstore. It was like this big bookstore in Minneapolis. And my boss, Clem, him and his wife, Sarah, she worked in the office, in the money office, and he was like one of the general managers at the bookstore. They came to the intensive care unit. I was in a coma for weeks from that suicide attempt. They came every day and held my hand, and it was like, so sweet. And then, oh my God, I remember coming to, I had like the incubation tube with the charcoal and like everything. And I was like, and like hurled out the thing. And I'm like, no, I'm still here. Why? And I was just like, and now looking back, yes, you're still here. You're still here. So, yeah.
Do you have any regrets in your life?
I try not to think of anything as regrets anymore, because if I didn't walk through all of that fire, I couldn't have burned away all of that led me to that in the first place, if that makes sense. I don't know. There's some old like little saying, if you remove any thread from the tapestry, it unravels the whole thing. So I had to go through all of that to come to this place that I'm in today. And I feel lucky, gifted, and just blessed that I was able to walk through all that fire. Because
You have no children?
you either do or you don't, you know. And another thing that like kind of kept me hanging on was like the friends who like died and OD'd, or like this one would have endocarditis, get rushed to the hospital, get open heart surgery, and like live, but they were like the asshole of the group. And then and they had like 4 open heart surgeries from endocarditis, from shooting with dirty needles. And then the one sweet soul that was like just addicted for like several months gets endocarditis and dies on the table. And it's like, whoa, that's just like all these things. And the people that were just so special but didn't see their specialness dying around me. And yeah, it was hard.
Do you have children?
No, I never had children. Never married, never had children.
You've been in love?
Yes. Well, yes. Some not so healthy.
Is love even possible when you're so addicted?
That's the thing. Back then, I thought I was in love, but it could not possibly have been love.
Because the drug becomes the top priority.
Yeah.
Over your kids, over your lover, over your job, over your everything.
Family. And so I do believe that you can care about people when you're fucked up, but to be able to truly love someone when you're just not loving yourself is kind of impossible, in my opinion. You know, like, I don't know. But you ask different people different things, and I don't know.
Let me ask you one last question.
Yes.
What would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in all of this?
To not take other people's wounded lashings out at you personally, and to not take what they say to heart. If I knew that as a child, then maybe I wouldn't have been so brainwashed by my mother to feel so worthless about myself. And that just can go whether you're a child, teenager, adult, elderly. That's one thing that like keeps me grounded. Like if someone treats me like garbage, that's not me. That is not my burden to bear. And another good thing that I do, because I'm also intensely empathic, and I believe that to be what my mother's ill treatment of me trained me to be a reader. Like I could walk into a room and I can see who's sad, who's in pain, who's angry. Like it's my like defense mechanism that I have. For the longest time, it was such a curse. Slowly, I started kind of getting myself back. And I joined a band, Apocalypse Theater, and we would tour around and we would work the Burning Man Festival. So after like 3 years of like finally, like finding a nice little niche to like feel like, camaraderie and belonging, and getting over, like depression from the long time heroin addiction. It was great. And then 1 year, it was like the 3rd year we worked the Burning Man Festival. I met friends from New York that I hadn't seen in a while. And so after Burning Man, we were done doing cleanup. That thing takes 6 months to build up and tear down, and we would work out in the desert for 6 months. But then friends of mine, I'm like, oh, hey guys at Apocalypse Theater, I'm going to go back to New York for like a week or so just to visit and say hi. So I go, September 11th happens. Holy guacamole, lockdown. You couldn't leave the city, you couldn't get into the city, no airports, no buses, no trains coming into this. Like, it was martial law, military everywhere. I was trapped within a 4-block radius down in the Lower East Side. Oh, that was a whole thing. But then after the martial law was lifted and I was able to go back to Minneapolis, I call my friends. I'm like, okay, everything's cool. I can come back. So Apocalypse Theater, they were going to get a van, come to New York, pick me up and all the stuff I accumulated over the several months I was trapped there. And then we were going to tour on the way back. So it's like 3 days before they're going to arrive or leave to pick me up. And I go to the Roseland Tattoo Convention where I meet Dick Ziggin, who was the proprietor then of the Coney Island Circus Sideshow. And he sees me and he's like, oh, you look amazing. I mostly just had my face and hands tattooed and a couple on my arms. But he's like, that's so weird. It's like usually you save the face and hands for last. And you should be in my show. And I'm like, what show is this? He's like, the Coney Island Circus Sideshow. And I'm like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. And he's like, you'll learn. And I'm like, fuck, I'm supposed to leave to go back to Minneapolis, but I really think I want to do this. I'm like, like push, pull in my head. And I'm like, this would make me really happy. So I call my friends and my jobs in Minneapolis the next day. And I'm like, actually, I'm staying in New York. And it was like kind of one of the best decisions I ever made because I got really good at like fire performance and I've got to travel the world doing that. And then it wasn't all rosy. I did kind of falter a little bit into alcoholism because at first, like going on stage in front of a live audience is petrifying. But then the alcohol, the liquid courage, that made it so much easier. But as time went on, a little drink before became a lot of drinks before a show, and I would start getting sloppy and then I'd feel bad about myself. So then I ended up like finally like putting aside the alcohol. And now it's like great. And now I'm a great influence. Now I tour a lot with the Squidling Brothers Circus Sideshow. And we just got off a tour and they were all kind of big drinkers. But then because I wasn't drinking, I felt like I was a good influence. They ended up not drinking as much as they normally would. So yeah, that was my light at the end of the dark tunnel. And I still have my moments where I struggle with, ooh, this is a little nerve-wracking. There's some like champagne right there. Like, oh wow, I could tell. Vampires can tell other vampires. I know what they're on. Like, oh, I want some of that. But it's like, no, I remember. I just keep in the front of my mind what that path leads down, and it's not anywhere good.
No, it's not.
So yeah.
All right.
And that I love that I've found this whole fire performance and that I get to travel and tour.
And you're still doing it?
Still doing it. Yeah, I just got off a tour doing it with the Squidling Brothers. And then we're doing a little short tour once I go back to New York from here.
Cool.
So, yeah.
All right, Alex. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Awesome.
When I was designing the first Softwood Underbelly book, I realized that there were so many great portraits that weren't going to make it into that book. They just wouldn't fit. And once I saw how well that first book sold, I knew I'd have to design a second book. This second book is finally ready to ship. Like the first one, this book has a collection of some of the best portraits from Soft White Underbelly, accompanied by a quote from that person's interview. This book features another group of Rebecca portraits, as well as a collection of color images of the Whitaker family, and plenty of others. You can order yours for $125 or $150 for a signed copy at softwhiteunderbelly.org. Again, like the first book, once this book is sold out, I will not be printing more of them. The portraits are what Soft White Underbelly is all about, and these 2 books contain the best of all that work. Thank you for watching.